Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is Veteran Mountain Man, and today I want to talk to you about the two types of freedom that people talk about from a political perspective. So, what are these two types of freedoms? Well, the first is classical freedom, kind of like what's described by John Locke in his treatises and what the U.S. Constitution was built on, and that is, you don't have the right to tell me what to do. It is the essence of, don't tread on me. Now, the second one is, I exist, therefore I have the right to live. And that usually means that I have the right to free stuff. Okay? Because you can't live if you don't have a place to live, and food on your table, and air to breathe, and water to drink, and some place to safely eliminate waste. These are all mandatory needs that have to be fulfilled for an individual to survive. And so these two ideas are actually diametrically opposed. Here's why. The act of you getting free stuff means that somewhere, somehow, that resource is having to, in some way, be paid for. Okay? And that is because resources are scarce. Resources don't just exist magically for everybody to use. Resources are finite, and because they are finite, that means that they have a cost to them. Whether it's the amount of effort it takes to acquire that resource, or the difficulty of acquiring that resource, or the scarcity of that resource, etc. So we'll take a resource such as air. Air in and of itself is very immense. You have a huge amount of atmosphere around the planet. Well, you're able to breathe that atmosphere for free. But if you start choking, somebody then has to find out why you're not breathing. So they have to spend their resources to help you. Okay? And that's where this whole concept of government's giving me free stuff simply to exist, it's why it's diametrically opposed to real freedom. Because now these governments are having to give individual citizens these resources. Well, these resources only exist if the government gets them from somewhere. So where do you think the government's going to get them? Well, the government's going to get them from other citizens, because the government itself is nothing more than a collective group of people agreeing to live under the same laws. Now, sometimes that's cultural. Sometimes it's a nation like the United States or Canada, where the nation was formed with many cultures. Sometimes it's ethnic, such as the Chinese. Sometimes it's a hodgepodge, but primarily one group or primarily two groups. Realistically, it doesn't really matter how the treaty came about, how the agreement came about. It matters that it's there. And so if that treaty, that social contract that everybody agrees to live under, gives people free stuff, that free stuff has to come from somewhere. Somebody has to expend their resources to acquire that resource. That resource still has to be acquired. And that means that it has to come from other citizens. So when conservatives say that they don't like welfare programs, it's not that they don't feel bad for people. It's that they don't like having their resources unwillingly taken and used in ways that they don't approve of. And that is where the fundamental disconnect becomes. Because, see, many people who are especially on the anti-authoritarian side, such as the anarcho-capitalist or the classical liberal or the true libertarian, or even, like myself, the 1776er, we want the government out of our life. We don't want to have to deal with the government at all. My day is so much better when I don't have to deal with the government, whether it be state, city, national, international. I don't care. I don't want the government ruining my day. My day is best when I can just interact with individual people and everybody stays the heck out of my wallet except out of the goodness of my heart. And I will be completely honest with you. I did some grocery shopping this week. The grocery store I went to had a fundraiser for the food bank for the state of Oregon. And I contributed. Why? Because I believe in what the food bank is doing. But I don't like the food stamp program. But I do like food banks. And that is because food banks are actually feeding people. And food stamps in and of themselves have been in the news time and time again under fraudulent conditions, where people are stealing the money of the citizens filtered through the government mandate and making themselves rich. And that is where the disconnect comes. That is where the conservative becomes upset and unamenable, is because anytime you create layer upon layer of interaction, you run the risk of losing the total effect that you are looking for. The food pantry has a great total effect. The Oregon Food Bank. They collect food, poor families come to them, and they give them the food. I mean, there is so little bureaucracy involved in that it's amazing. But yet, the Oregon SNAP program, you have government liaisons and people who investigate claims and claims associates that take people's paperwork and look through it and process it. And by the time you get down to the actual cost versus the benefit, the cost itself is astronomical. So when it really comes down to it, do you support taking others' resources so that you get them for free? Or do you support being allowed to gather your resources the way you want and being left alone? And those are the two real definable positions of freedom in the political world today. Well, thank you all again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this little discussion. If you like my content, please like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on VidMe, please upvote and follow. Feel free to share my videos with friends, families, neighbors. And as always, have a great day.